Our next conversation today is with Greg Lopez, Republican candidate for governor turned unaffiliated candidate for governor. Welcome back to Next.
It's best to be here. Thank you, Kyle.
And I should mention, I think since the last time that you were here, you also served a short stint in Congress,
yes,
representing Colorado's 4th Congressional District as well. So let's talk about your party switch.
So before we get started,
yeah, get after it.
Can I want to talk directly to the Coloradans that are watching.
All right, get after it.
You're going to hear a lot about me. Some of it fair, some of it not. But really what matters is, what am I running for? I'm running to put people over politics, to do no harm, and to give Colorado leadership that focuses on what works. I'm not perfect. I never claim to be. But I live my life owning my mistakes, learning from them, and serving others. And that's exactly how I'm going to answer all these questions today.
All right, rock and roll. We've interviewed a lot of people here. You're the first one to take an opening statement. I like it. It's bold. Let's talk about your party switch. Why did you leave the Republican Party, become unaffiliated?
You know, Kyle, what I realized is the parties are broken. The system's broken. You know, the parties are fighting because they believe the state belongs to them. And actually, that's wrong. The state belongs to the people. And I'm fighting to give the state back to the people, because it's people over politics. And I'm here to make sure that I can serve and address the struggles that every family is having here in Colorado, whether it's the environment, whether it's jobs, the cost of living, education, medical health, healthcare, daycare. I'm focused on the issues that impact every Coloradan every single day.
So you were a Republican. Do you take any issue with what President Trump's doing these days, or what the Colorado Republican Party is doing these days? Is your leaving a repudiation of what they're doing, or is it a different kind of choice?
No, again, I'm looking at the system. The system is broken. And right here in Colorado, 50% of the voters have already said that they don't like the political back and forth, the finger pointing and name calling. I'm here to focus on solving the problems for the state of Colorado. And I don't have to answer to any political bosses. I don't have to answer to any Washington ideas. I get to focus on what's important for the people of Colorado.
Have you changed any of your positions or your values as you've left the Republican Party?
No, look, my values when I was mayor and when I was in Congress was always to put people first. This is truly about people over politics. It's about making sure that we can help people have a better life. Look, I'm looking to make life better for all of us, not just some of us. And so that's when I'm done. That's what I'm continuing to do.
You didn't switch parties because you thought you were going to lose the Republican primary for the third time, did you?
Oh, no. Look, you know what? I'm applying for a job. Every candidate is applying for a job. And for the last 2 times, I've submitted my resume to a political process called the primary. This time I decided that I was going to take my resume directly to the people and let the people decide whether my experience, my leadership skills, is what Colorado needs right now. That's what I'm doing.
When you were in the Republican Party, running for governor, serving as a congressman, you felt like you had to answer to somebody in the party? Who specifically?
Look, both parties, you know how it works. There's pressure from party leadership.
Yeah, I want you to name the people. I want you to name the people. Who do you have to report to? What was the deal that you didn't like?
Look, just like anything else, right? Even now, for example, right? People are a little upset that I'm no longer carrying the R on my shoulder. But I haven't changed. And there's a lot of people that identify their identity with the political parties. And that's not who I am. My values have not changed. I'm still fighting for people over politics. This is what America's all about. We need to focus on the issues that are impacting people. And I'm going to work on education, health issues, everything, the quality of life. That's what we, all elected officials, should be focusing in on.
I have seen polling that suggests that Coloradans are open to the idea of voting for an unaffiliated candidate, at least in theory, right?
Yes.
It's different when it's an actual person, right? But in theory, they seem open to it. Why do you think that the unaffiliated candidate that they're open to voting for is somebody who's staunchly conservative as opposed to somebody who is more middle of the road?
Because they're looking for a problem solver. They're looking for someone that can actually look at the problem and solve it. Bring ideas to the table. Look, when I was up in the Western Slope, the ranchers and the farmers were very concerned about the wolf. And they asked me if I could help. And I got involved, and what I was able to do was stop more introduction of the wolf into Colorado. Because the state, the governor, and CPW had violated the Endangered Species Act by bringing in wolves from Canada. So this is what I do. I look at issues. I try to figure out, how do we solve them? How do we make our lives better for everybody.
So when you say that you stopped the introduction of wolves, Colorado is currently still seeking to bring in wolves. It's just the Trump administration has told them that they must be domestically sourced. You can't import the wolves. Go ahead.
Yes, actually what they're saying is you cannot bring in wolves from Canada. You can't bring them in from Alaska. You must follow the 10J rule. The 10J permit identifies the states by which you can bring wolves in.
The Northwest, right?
Yes,
Yep.
the Northern Rockies, right?
Yep.
But the states are not willing to give the state of Colorado the wolves because the environment here, basically the wolves we've been bringing, only 60% are surviving. So it pretty much is like a death sentence when we bring the wolves in from other places.
So when you say that you stopped the introduction of new wolves, you're claiming credit for forcing Colorado to adhere to the stricter standard, which has effectively stopped them from bringing in wolves because they can't get a partner state.
Yes,
Okay.
basically what's saying,
Okay.
you know what, you cannot violate the Endangered Species Act. You must follow the rules and, you know what, follow your own management plan. They violated their own management plan when they capture a wolf that's been considered a chronic depredator. Their plan says they're not going to re-release it across the state, and they've done that twice. So we need to make sure that we're managing the reintroduction of the wolf as the Colorado Parks and Wildlife said they were going to.
Do you want CPW to stay in charge of the program, or do you want U.S. Fish and Wildlife to take it over?
When you look at the 10J permit, it's very clear that if they're not following their own management plan, if they're not dealing with the conflicts that are happening, that the United States Fish and Wildlife must step in because they're the oversight. You have to remember the letter of agreement, the memorandum of agreement, makes CPW the designated agent on behalf of the United States Fish and Wildlife. So the full responsibility still falls on the federal government. But they allowed CPW to try to do it correctly. They're failing. And so that's why they're being asked, provide information that shows that you can properly manage the reintroduction of the wolf.
But my question is, do you want the feds to take over the program? They've threatened to do so.
I think at this juncture, for now, I think it's probably the best thing that could happen is to put a pause, have the federal agencies reevaluate, supervise, and monitor, and find out what they were doing before we bring in more wolves into Colorado.
The feds have talked about coming in and euthanizing the wolves that are here. Would you support that approach?
Well, you know what? It's an experimental population, right? The whole state was considered an experimental population. The experiment seems to be failing. If the federal government decides that euthanizing the wolves is in the best interest of the environment, the best interest of the ranchers and the farmers, I'm sure they're going to explain why they're going to do that.
Okay. So let's again talk about kind of like the politics and the strategy of your move from Republican to unaffiliated, right? So if we end up with a general election where you've got one Democrat, you've got one Republican, and then you've got a conservative unaffiliated candidate, what do you think is going to happen?
Look, I think the people are going to look for who is fair, who's compassionate, who actually cares about the future of everyone. You know, who cares about the poor? You know, who cares about the children that are not learning, that are graduating and not wondering, can I really get a job because I can't really read, I can't really do math? Those are the people that I think the unaffiliated voters are looking for, someone that can actually connect with the people and wants to solve the issues that everyone's struggling with. And I think we are going to have an opportunity to share our vision with the voters. And the voters get to decide, but it's about people over politics. And I know that's what a lot of people, regardless of party affiliation, they want government to work for them, not against them.
I hear your message. Talk to me about math.
Well,
Right? Talk to me about math. You've got a Democrat, you've got a Republican, and you have a formerly Republican conservative unaffiliated. How does that math work?
You know, the math works from this perspective. Look, I'm not going to get all the vote from any of the different blocks. I'm going to get 45% of the unaffiliated vote. I'm going to get 30% of the Republican vote. And I'm going to get 20% of the Democrat vote. Because I'm going to get the 20% of the Democrats that are frustrated with their party. I'm going to get 30% of the Republicans that feel unheard, that don't believe that things are moving forward, and 45% of the unaffiliated voters that are just sick and tired of the political games. They just want a problem solver. I'm a problem solver, not a problem observer. That is going to be the math.
45% of the unaffiliated vote would be a significant overperformance for anybody who has or used to have an R next to their name in Colorado. You would recognize that, right? That would be a massive overperformance for a conservative candidate with unaffiliated voters. Unaffiliated just haven't broken that way in Colorado recently. And you're saying you think that you could overperform in that
Yes,
way.
I believe the environment. I believe what's happening in our nation today. And I believe my voice is going to connect with them. You have to remember, I've never had an opportunity to go to the general election and actually talk at that level where they're making a decision. They've been forced before to choose between the extremes of both sides, extreme of the parties. Now they actually have a candidate that speaks to them, that is looking at how are we going to solve problems. So I'm focused in with the voters in the middle, and all they want is a better life.
So I've heard some people on the right call you a spoiler, which I don't like that word, right? Because anybody can run for office if they want to, right? You know, and nobody has the right to tell somebody else not to run. But at the same time, right, we're both intelligent guys who follow Colorado politics. We understand how these things work. If it turns out that the race in November is closer than recent races would suggest, right? Because Republicans have gotten blown out recently.
Mm-hmm.
If that race turns out to be closer, and your presence in the race effectively means that the Democrat wins and the Republican loses a winnable race, are you going to be okay with that? Is that just going to be what the voters decide, and that's cool?
Yes, because look, if a party loses because people make a different choice, that's not splitting the vote. That's not being a spoiler. That's democracy. And we must all connect with the voters. The voters are choosing a governor that they believe is going to do the right thing for the entire state.
So when you briefly served in U.S. Congress, I'm guessing that a lot of people who are not kind of political junkies don't know this, but the way that you got into that seat is because you promised to be a placeholder candidate who would not seek the seat long term, therefore would not run against Lauren Boebert, who was moving across the state, changing districts, and who wanted that seat. So you agreed to be that placeholder. She threw her support to you. Party insiders picked you for that seat, and then you won the election to stay in it briefly. So here's my question to you. Are you just staying in this race until the Republican candidate gives you something that you want and then you get out?
No. First of all, your analysis of what happened is not correct.
You didn't agree to be. Let's go place. Let's go piece by piece.
But let me go back.
Did you agree to be a placeholder and not run again?
No. That's not a placeholder. Here's what I agreed to do.
You might not like the word. But what I'm
Here's what I agreed to do.
Okay.
I agreed to bring clarity and purpose.
Oh, people are too smart for this.
No. Because look, the governor had to put the special election on the same primary ballot.
Yep.
So people were actually going to be voting. They did it on the Democrat side. They were voting for the Democrat on the special election, and then they were going to vote for the Democrat in the primary. And so what I did was bring clarity and purpose. I can tell you, when I went to Congress and I came out of Congress, my goal.
We're not going to do this. Well, I want to be very clear with folks about what happened. Did you or did you not agree that you would not seek to keep the seat for a full 2-year term?
Yes, because I want to be to Congress.
Okay,
right?
Fair, very good. Lauren Boebert, who wanted the seat for a full 2-year term and beyond, then threw her support to you.
No.
She did not. She did not support you.
No.
All of the reporting that she supported you and advocated for folks to vote for you is false.
Yes. You look at the actual voting. 6 hours and 6 different times of voting before I got the nomination and said I won. So no, this was me. This was me, my voice, my character that got me from the people in the room to say, this is the person that we need to be there.
What if I was to say, I seem to recall that she actually wrote a letter telling people to support you?
No, she did not.
She did not write a letter?
No,
okay.
not supporting me. Not supporting me. She never mentioned my name.
Oh, was it just the idea of supporting a placeholder?
No, the idea of them supporting someone that
who wouldn't run against her in November.
That's politics.
And that was you.
But remember, I never wanted to be in Congress.
Okay, I don't want to litigate the past with you. I'm asking a question about the future, which is, are you hanging out until you get something?
No.
Okay.
I'm here to represent the people of Colorado.
Okay, you've answered clearly. All right, I just want to make sure, I understand, we have differing views of what happened in motivations or whatever, but I understand that. The question was supposed to be forward-looking there. You're going to have to go out and collect a bunch of signatures to get on the ballot.
That's
1,000 per district, right? Mm-hmm. So you're either going to need an army of volunteers or you're going to need a pile of money to pay people to go out and get the signatures, right? There's nothing wrong with doing it either way.
Right.
Which way are you going to do it?
I'm probably going to do a hybrid.
Okay. With respect, you have not shown the ability to raise a lot of money in any of your previous 3 runs for governor.
That's true.
How are you going to come up with the money to do this?
So here's the thing. I just said we're going to do a hybrid. I have people right now, unaffiliated voters, reaching out and saying, I want to help. Let me know what I can do. If I need to gather signatures for you, count me in. So the Army is building. The support base is building. Remember, I don't have to start until May. So there's plenty of time for us to evaluate how we're going to actually effectively connect those signatures. I can assure you this. I will be on the general election. There will be 3 candidates, serious candidates, that have experience. I'm the only one that truly has executive administrative experience in overseeing a community. When I was mayor, I was a city manager. All the department heads reported directly to me.
What years were you mayor? Because I know it was a while ago, so folks might not be familiar with it. You were the mayor of Parker. Which years?
Year 92 to 96. I was 27 at the time.
Okay.
The youngest mayor ever elected in the state. And by the way, I was a Democrat elected in a Republican county.
Yep. Unaffiliated municipal election.
Always.
But you switched your party registration while you...
But all people had to do look at me
Yep.
and say, you know what? He's Hispanic. He's got to be Democrat. And that was true at the time.
I've heard you suggest that that still happens.
It still happens all the time.
You don't think people are going to vote for you in November because of your last name or the color of your skin, do you?
I have no idea how people are going to vote. I will tell you that.
But you say that people think you're a Democrat.
They do.
Because you're Latino.
Yes. I was raised a Democrat. The majority of the Hispanic community is Democrat. Only 12% of the registered voters here in Colorado that are Hispanic are Republican. The majority of them are Democrat. You have to remember, though, also, Kyle, I'm the former director of the Denver Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm also the former director of the United States Small Business Administration. And I sat on the Martin Luther King Advisory Committee. So I know the urban corridor.
So Democrats tried to help you win your last Republican primary for governor because they thought that you would be easier to beat in the general election. Do you think that they're going to help? Do you think that they're going to help your unaffiliated?
Actually, it's funny that you say that because I ran into Governor Polis after the primary, right? And he looked at me and he said, Greg, what is wrong with your party? I said, Governor, what are you talking about? He goes, you, the weakest candidate? You and I both know you're the strongest candidate. I am so glad you're not going to the general. Oh, and by the way, I had nothing to do with those mailers.
Oh no, of course not. I'm not saying that you did. Here's my question.
No.
The Dems tried to help you win last time.
No, they spent $2 million against me. You're familiar with the blueprint, right?
They spent that money for you.
No.
Those ads said you were too conservative.
Have you read the book, The Blueprint?
It was written by my colleague here.
Okay, so go to page.
Let's focus on my question.
Go to page 227.
Okay.
227. Go to that page.
Okay.
It will say that they focus on taking out the strongest Republican candidate in the primary.
Precisely.
So they don't have to deal with them in the general.
And with respect, they thought that it was your opponent. That's why they spent money to help you. They were trying to help you win because they thought you were the weaker candidate.
I think
They described you as too conservative for Colorado, right? That was intended to help you win a GOP primary. That's like putting a sign on a bake shop saying these cookies are too tasty, right?
Disagree with
they
you.
were trying to get people to come to you.
No, I disagree with you because look at the book. Look at what happened, okay? Think about that for a minute. I missed going to the general election by 49,000 votes.
Dems should have spent a little bit more money on you. They could have pushed you over the line.
And Heidi Ganal lost by 485,000. The worst loss in Colorado history for a Republican candidate.
Do you think you would have performed better against Polis?
Oh, yeah. The governor told me. The governor told me in my face. He said, Greg, I am so glad. I
don't mean to laugh. It's just a funny story. Okay.
No, but ask the governor.
Okay.
You should ask him. You should ask the governor. You know where it was? And I'll tell you, so you can remind him.
Yeah.
It was at Savor.
Okay.
The most popular Hispanic fundraising for the Denver Hispanic Chamber. Ask him. He'll tell you.
So just to be clear, you don't accept the premise that when Dems ran ads saying you were too conservative for Colorado, you think they were actually trying to hurt you and not help you win with that?
They achieved their goal based on the plan that is in the blueprint that they will take out in the primary the strongest Republican candidate. That's why they came after me, not for any other reason. And the governor validated it when he told me, Greg, you and I both know you're the strongest candidate. I am so glad you're not running against me because we were at a Hispanic event, and this is what he told me.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could beat you with this vote around us right now.
I think at the end of the day, I think we look at the same set of facts and just have different opinions.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
You thought you were the strongest candidate, and they successfully took you out.
It's like an attorneys, right? When the
Right.
attorneys go in front of a judge,
Sure.
they look at the same evidence. One says this, the other says that.
All right. Well,
And the people get to decide.
very good. What is the biggest single issue facing Colorado today, and what is your unique approach to fixing it?
I think the biggest issue that Colorado is facing today is the cost of living, the high cost of living. You know, people are losing hope. They're losing the ability to believe that they can actually see a future. And so the best thing that a governor can do is make sure that we are not causing more harm than we're causing already. The regulations of small business is unbelievable. They're choking small business. Small business is the heart and soul of every community. They create jobs. Remember, I was the director of the United States Small Business Administration. I created over 48,000 jobs, made sure that small business got over billions of dollars of federal contracting.
You're talking about the regional office, just to
Yes.
be clear. Regional
Yeah.
office. Yep.
Yeah. And also made sure that they got loans, access to capital, making sure that they are growing and expanding. That is the heart and soul of every Main Street. This is what I'm going to work on.
President Trump has promised, quote unquote, harsh measures against Colorado, and a lot of it's based on his claims that the 2020 election was rigged and it was stolen from him. Do you agree with him that that election was rigged in 2020?
You know, we already went back, right? We talked about that.
But it's impacting Colorado today. Like, he's making decisions for Colorado today based on his claim that 2020 was rigged. So I'm asking, do you
Well, I
think
can tell you
this is
this.
true?
Look, I can't speak for what he's doing, what he's doing. I do know this. Remember, when I was in Congress, I sat on the budget committee. I understand clearly why we're $28 trillion in debt as a nation.
If you don't want to answer my question, you don't have to, but I've got more questions I'm going to ask if you don't want to answer. So I'll just ask one last time. Is Donald Trump correct when he says that he won the 2020 election?
I think that the results are the results.
Okay. So Trump has promised retaliation against Colorado, and he's delivering, right? So most recently, he vetoed the clean drinking water project. It was in the district that you represented in Congress briefly. He froze funding for low-income families, including child care funding, TANF. He denied disaster aid to Colorado for wildfires and floods. He said he's going to dismantle the NCAR Science Lab in Boulder. Those things that I just listed off there, Trump's actions against Colorado. Do you oppose any of those, or do you support those actions?
I would tell you this. I'm looking at what he's doing, and I'm remembering sitting in the budget committee and seeing the debt that we're facing as a nation. Okay, some of these things, like for example, every state is having to deal with cuts from the federal government. Every state.
But what I'm asking you are about cuts that are specific to Colorado, not his nationwide actions. His specific actions to target Colorado, like vetoing the Arkansas Valley Conduit Pipeline, freezing funding for low-income families, denying disaster aid for Colorado. Do you support those actions?
No, I don't support anybody causing harm to people. Okay, it is the role of the governor to make sure he protects the people of this great state in any manner that he can. So no, if he is purposely trying to harm people, trying to harm the poor, trying to harm children, which I don't think that's his motive, but if it was, you can be rest assured, I would be fighting for the people of Colorado. That's what a governor does, and that is what I'm planning to do.
Do you think that he's trying to punish Colorado by vetoing the clean drinking water project?
No, not at all. From what I know, what the veto was based on was the financing of over 100 years. He says, I think there's a better way to do it. I haven't looked at it to see if that's true, but the conversation is never over. So, just because he vetoed it doesn't mean that you can't go back and reevaluate, look at what the issues are in his mind, and see if you can address them to make sure that, you know what? I mean, it happens here in Colorado all the time. Before legislation happens, a lot of the leadership goes to the Governor Polis and say, here's what we're looking to do. What do you think? And he's like, you know what? I can support this gun bill, but if you modify it, tweak it a little bit, I'll feel more comfortable with it.
So just to be clear, is there any action he's taken toward Colorado that you think is inappropriate, that you know of?
Well, remember, anything that harms people, okay, hurts the poor.
I'm asking you for a direct answer. Is there anything that President Trump has done to Colorado that you think is inappropriate?
If he's withholding funds out of spite, then yes, that's inappropriate.
Do you believe he's withholding funds out of spite?
No, I don't.
Okay. If you were elected governor, would you free Tina Peters?
You know, it's interesting how everybody likes to use that topic as a political football. Here's what I would tell you. Look, my biggest concern right now about Tina Peters is I'm hearing that she's a cancer survivor. She's got half a lung she lost, right? She's got a cough. She's losing weight. You know what? I think the people of Colorado want us to treat those people that are incarcerated with compassion. I would like to see us talk about, should it be best to make sure she gets the medical attention that she deserves, perhaps put her in house arrest with an ankle bracelet like we've done with a lot of people. Make sure that she gets the medical care that she has before anybody talks about pardoning her. Now, as a governor, I would evaluate the entire file, right? I think it's important for a governor to evaluate the case. He will have to talk to the district attorney. He has to talk to the presiding judge and have a conversation with him about, explain to me how all this played. I think any individual would respect a governor that would evaluate the totality of the case before they make the decision if they're going to pardon someone or not.
Obviously, President Trump's putting a tremendous amount of pressure on Colorado's governor, and if you were elected governor and she's still in prison, there would be tremendous pressure on you to free her. You're willing to tell President Trump, hold on, I've got to look at the case, I'm not just going to tell you yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I sure would. I did that when I was in Congress. You know, I never voted for a continued resolution because a continued resolution says that Congress failed their job. Their only job in Congress is to pass a budget. And I tell people, if you hear them pass a continued resolution, that means they didn't do their job because they didn't pass a budget.
I have one more question for you. We've gone long on this, but I'm getting the feeling that you're enjoying this as much as I am. So we've gone long. If you were governor, would you seek to have Colorado's state level and local level law enforcement cooperate on immigration enforcement in the way that we see in red states, say like Texas? Here in Colorado, there's a number of impediments to state and local law enforcement working hand in hand with ICE. What would you do?
You know, I would make sure that our focus is to make our communities safe. Who is it that's making our communities unsafe? I think everybody agrees that, you know what, criminals need to be apprehended, need to be held accountable for their actions. I think involving local law enforcement with state law enforcement to send a strong message that we here in Colorado are not going to tolerate people violating other people's property or harming people. I think that's really what government should do. Government should work together to make sure that we're creating a state that we can all be proud of.
Governor Polis says almost the exact same thing. So I guess my question to you is, would you change policy? You're giving me the same message that Governor Polis gives me. Would you change policy to instruct state law enforcement to work more closely with ICE?
Well, I have to evaluate the policy as how it's written. Because sometimes the bureaucrats that are trying to apply the policy, they misrepresent the definition of the words. The spirit and intent. That's what I've always learned when I was mayor and in Congress, is look at the policy, evaluate what it's doing today, what it might do 10 years from now, and again, put the people over the political and do no harm. That's what drives my governing decisions.
Greg Lopez, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your perspectives. You've gotten a lot better at avoiding the questions since the last time we talked. I look forward to talking with you again.
Same here.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.